Ava Collins, 27, believed nothing could come between her and her younger sister, Leah. They had shared everything growing up. Clothes, secrets, even dreams. But that was before Leah met Ethan Wells and his wealthy family rewrote the rules. Ava should have sensed trouble during that first dinner at the Wells mansion. Diana Wells had scanned Ava's thrift store dress like it was contaminated, and Gregory Wells had offered a hollow smile when she mentioned her cybersecurity work. Still, nothing could have prepared Ava for the call from her father. "Don't come to the wedding," he'd said gently. "Ethan's parents, they're not comfortable with you being there. Where are you watching from today? Kindly hit like, comment and subscribe to this channel for more." Ava stared at her phone in disbelief. "Not comfortable? I'm her sister. Her maid of honor." Her dad's sigh echoed through the line. "I know, sweetheart. But Leah says it's complicated." Ava felt her stomach twist. Complicated? They'd been through everything together. Losing their mom, navigating school, building futures on shoestring budgets. She was the one who packed Leah's lunches, helped with her homework, worked 2 jobs to pay her college fees. And now she was being cast aside. "They think you don't fit their image," her dad said quietly. "But Leah says she'll make it up to you." Ava's voice was hollow. "A party after the wedding I'm not welcome at? How generous." That night, Ava sat in her apartment surrounded by old photos. Of her and Leah on the porch, their mom braiding their hair, high school graduation with Ava beaming beside her younger sister. Her chest tightened. "I promised Mom I'd always be there for you," she whispered, tears falling. But Leah didn't want her there anymore. Rage simmered beneath the grief. Ava had never needed anyone's approval, but this betrayal? This cut deeper. If the Wells family thought she wasn't good enough, maybe it was time they discovered who they were really dealing with. Ava threw herself into work the next day. At RMG Cybersecurity, she was known for her precision and instincts. Her manager, Marcus, gave her a new assignment. Wells Tech, a top-tier client needing a full audit. Ava froze. "Wells Tech?" she asked. "Any issues?" Marcus asked. "No," she replied tightly. She didn't mention that Wells Tech was Gregory Wells' company. Or that Ethan was now engaged to her sister. "I'll handle it," she said. Maybe this was fate. A chance to see what this elite family was hiding behind their glossy smiles. By day 3 of the audit, Ava found something odd. Tiny financial transfers, too small to trigger alerts, but suspicious when strung together. "This can't be random," she muttered, pulling up a second monitor. Hours passed. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. The deeper she dug, the more she uncovered. Shell companies, hidden accounts and trails leading offshore. Ava's breath caught. Gregory's laundering money. She double-checked every entry. This wasn't just sloppy accounting. This was fraud, on a scale that could topple the company. That night she stared at the blinking cursor on her screen. One report to the SEC and Wells Tech would implode. She could ruin the man who made her feel small, who tried to erase her from Leah's life. But what about Leah? Would Ava be hurting her sister too? Her phone lit up. Leah's latest Instagram post. Her and Ethan, champagne flutes raised on a yacht, captioned, "With the people who matter most." Ava's jaw tightened. Then let's see what matters when the truth comes out. Ava gathered everything into a secure, encrypted file. But before sending it off, she called an old mentor, Frank. Over coffee the next day, she asked, "If someone discovers fraud at a client's company, but exposing it could hurt someone they love, what should they do?" Frank didn't hesitate. "Do what's right. Because if you don't, you're helping the wrong people win." Ava nodded slowly. The truth had to come out. But she'd do it her way, with precision. She sent a discreet message to Leah. "We need to talk. It's important." Hours passed. No reply. The next morning she received a legal letter. "Cease and desist," from the Wells family attorney. Ava blinked, stunned. Her message had been interpreted as a threat. She wasn't just excluded now. She was the enemy. That evening her doorbell rang. A soft knock. She opened it to find Ethan's younger sister, Marissa, glancing over her shoulder nervously. "Can I come in? I don't have much time." Ava stepped aside, still stunned. Marissa, quiet and observant at family dinners, sat on the edge of the couch. "They don't know I'm here," she began. "But I saw the draft of that letter they sent you and I thought you should know the truth." What followed shattered any illusions Ava had left. "Gregory's hiding how bad things are," Marissa said. They're drowning in debt. And they're pushing for the wedding to tie Leah's law firm connections into the company's legal troubles. She's not family. She's a solution. Ava sat in silence after Marissa left, hands trembling. They'd manipulated Leah, used her ambition as leverage. They're ashamed of us, she whispered, remembering Leah's cold text. That night Ava made a choice. She wouldn't destroy Wells Tech yet. But she would prepare. She built a system, legal, traceable, that would freeze the company's assets if needed. She copied the files, encrypted the evidence, and stored it off-site. They may have money, she said aloud, but I have the truth. Ava knew timing was everything. She couldn't move too soon or too late. But first she needed confirmation, someone else on the inside. She arranged a meeting with Kenneth Lang, Wells Tech's CFO. They met at a quiet cafe across town. Thanks for taking the time, Ava said, sliding a folder across the table. Kenneth frowned as he opened it. Where did you get this? Through the audit, she replied evenly. Gregory's been hiding losses through fake subsidiaries. I believe it's intentional. Kenneth stared at the numbers. I had no idea. I'm not asking you to act today, Ava added. I'm asking you to see the truth. He didn't promise anything, but his troubled expression said enough. Later that night, Ava received a text from an unknown number. Leah misses you. She's just too proud to say it. It was signed Ethan. She hesitated before replying. Then why hasn't she said it herself? Minutes later, another message arrived. An invitation is on the way. It's not perfect, but it's something. The next day, a formal envelope arrived by courier. Inside was a wedding invitation, and a note from Diana Wells in neat cursive. We may have gotten off on the wrong foot. Leah would like you to attend. Ava read it twice. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just a performance. A peace offering wrapped in condescension. But still, part of her wanted to see her sister walk down the aisle. The morning of the wedding, Ava stood at her mirror. She chose a navy blue dress. Elegant, simple, quiet power. She tied her hair back, applied neutral makeup, and tucked her laptop into her leather bag. Just in case. The drive to the Wells estate was long, winding through wealthy neighborhoods with towering gates and manicured hedges. At the entrance, uniformed staff checked names. When they saw hers, they stiffened. Then one of them nodded. You're expected. She parked, exhaled, and stepped into the lion's den. The ceremony was lavish. Rows of gold chairs overlooked a marble altar framed with white roses. Guests in designer gowns sipped champagne. Ava slipped into the back row unnoticed by most. Her father caught her eye from the front, relief softening his tense expression. She gave him a small nod but remained where she was. When the music swelled and Leah appeared, Ava held her breath. Her sister was radiant in a gown of delicate lace and silk. Their eyes met briefly. For a moment something passed between them, relief, regret, maybe both. Then Leah looked away and continued down the aisle. After the vows, Ava stayed at the edge of the cocktail hour, sipping water while guests mingled. Her presence drew some curious glances, but most were too polite, or too distracted, to ask questions. Then Gregory approached, glass of champagne in hand. Didn't expect to see you, he said with a stiff smile. Last-minute invite, Ava replied. I almost didn't come. Weddings are about unity, he said, scanning the crowd. But it's also important to know who fits. Ava smiled politely. Yes, it's good to know who truly belongs. His gaze flickered before he turned away, clearly irritated. Inside the house, Ava wandered away from the crowd. She paused in a hallway lined with portraits. Generations of Wells men in suits, their faces smug and frozen in time. Voices echoed from an adjacent room. She leaned closer. Gregory was speaking. She showed up, of course. Probably hoping to make connections. These types always do. Diana's voice followed, sharp and dismissive. Did you see her dress? Off the rack. Harper's family should be grateful we're marrying her in. Ava's hands curled into fists. Then came the final sting, Julian laughing. Let's just hope she doesn't embarrass us. Ava's heart pounded as she slipped away. So this was it. They weren't just indifferent. They were disgusted by her existence. She found the library empty, her feet moving on instinct. Her laptop bag felt heavier now. She sat at the mahogany desk, Connected to the Wi-Fi using the guest password she'd seen on a catering card. One keystroke. That was all it would take to activate the emergency freeze she'd prepared. Through the window she could see Leah and Ethan posing for photos, the illusion still intact. Ava stared at the screen. Her finger hovered. Then she heard a voice, Leah's, outside the door. Is she in here? Ava barely had time to minimize the screen before the door opened. Leah stood in her wedding gown, breathless. I was hoping I'd find you. Ava rose slowly. You found me. Leah stepped inside and closed the door. I'm sorry, she said softly. I never wanted to leave you out. But Ethan's parents, they made it clear. I thought if I kept the peace it would all work out. At what cost? Ava asked, voice flat. You cut me out of your life. Leah's eyes welled. I thought I could fix it later. That maybe one day they'd come around. But walking down that aisle without you, it didn't feel right. Ava's anger flared again. You let them treat me like a liability. You let them decide I didn't belong. I know, Leah whispered. I was scared. Of them. Of losing what I thought I needed. The sisters stood there in silence, years of hurt hanging between them. Do you even know what they're really after? Ava finally asked. What Gregory's hiding? Leah frowned. What do you mean? Ava exhaled slowly. I can't say everything. Not yet. But ask Ethan about his father's business. About the SEC investigation. About why they wanted this wedding so badly. Leah blinked, shocked. SEC? What are you talking about? Ava shook her head. I tried to warn you. You wouldn't listen. Because I thought you were jealous, Leah whispered, ashamed. That's what they said. And you believed them. Ava turned away, pain etched across her face. If you're marrying into this family, you should know what you're stepping into. Leah stepped forward. Then tell me. Please. Ava hesitated. She couldn't reveal classified information directly, but Leah deserved to know something. Your father-in-law is hiding something big, she said carefully. Wells Tech's financial records are fake. There's embezzlement, false reporting, and manipulation of investors. I found it all during the audit. Leah's face turned pale. You're serious? I wouldn't risk everything to lie, Ava replied. Gregory's been using your firm's name, your firm's reputation, as part of a cover-up. This wedding? It was part of the plan. Leah stepped back, her hands trembling. So I was never more than a business move to them? The air between them grew thick with tension. Ethan loves me, Leah said suddenly, as if trying to convince herself. Ava's expression didn't change. Then ask him to tell you the truth. Ask him what's happening inside Wells Tech. Leah wiped at her eyes, her perfect makeup smudging. Why didn't you come to me sooner? I tried, Ava said quietly. You blocked my calls. Sent lawyers after me. Leah's shoulders slumped. I didn't know what to believe. They told me you were bitter. Jealous. Ava gave a small, sad laugh. That word again. Like I ever wanted what they have. The door opened suddenly. Ethan stepped in, concern written across his face. There you are, he said, looking at Leah. Then he noticed Ava. What's going on? Leah turned to him, her voice shaky. Ava says your father's company is under investigation. That he's been stealing from Wells Tech. Ethan glanced at Ava, then looked away. I didn't know the full extent, he admitted. But I've suspected something wasn't right for months. And you didn't say anything? Leah asked, shocked. I didn't want to believe it, Ethan replied. But I think Ava's right. Back in the garden, guests continued laughing and sipping champagne, unaware of the storm building behind the mansion walls. Leah and Ethan followed Ava into the library, where she reopened her laptop. I encrypted everything, she explained. The documents, the transfers, the shell companies. I can't show you everything now, but here's one email, between your parents. Ethan read the screen, his mouth tightening. He said, once they're married, we'll have access to her law firm's restructuring team. Leah leaned over his shoulder. He wrote that about me? They never saw you as family, Ava said softly. Just leverage. Leah sat down, stunned. I was so blind. Ava placed a hand on her shoulder. You weren't blind. You were manipulated. They're good at it. That's how they've survived this long. Ethan looked between the sisters. So what now? Ava closed the laptop. I already filed a contingency. If the fraud isn't stopped, the SEC will act. The company's assets will be frozen. Your dad will face charges. Leah stared into the distance. He's going to ruin everyone just to keep pretending he's still powerful. He already has, Ava said gently. But there's still time to stop him. Just then Gregory burst into the room, his phone in hand, his face ashen. What did you do? He barked at Ava. Phones are lighting up. Investors are panicking. I know this is you. Ava stood calmly. I followed legal protocol. Your company's under investigation because of your own actions. Gregory's eyes burned with rage. You've destroyed everything. Ethan stepped in front of Ava. No, Dad. You did that when you lied to all of us. Gregory looked between his son and daughter-in-law-to-be. You're siding with her? I'm siding with the truth, Ethan said. Leah stood beside Ethan now. We're not going to protect your lies anymore. Diana entered behind her husband, her composure cracking. Please, let's not make a scene. You made a scene, Ava replied. You just didn't expect anyone to notice. Gregory pointed at Ava. You'll regret this. No, Mr. Wells, Ava said quietly. I'll finally sleep tonight. Ethan looked at his mother. Did you know? Diana hesitated, then nodded once. We thought we could fix it quietly. Leah shook her head. By ruining my wedding? My future? No one answered. The silence was answer enough. The next morning, Ava sat at the boardroom table of Wells Tech, across from a row of executives and investigators. Kenneth Lang stood beside her, presenting her findings. The board listened in stunned silence as each transaction, each fake company, each manipulated document was laid out. This was deliberate, Ava said, and it jeopardizes every investor, every employee, every partner. One board member leaned forward. Why didn't you bring this to us sooner? I did. Through your CFO. And I gave Gregory a chance to come clean. The board voted unanimously to suspend Gregory as CEO. Back at her apartment, Ava received a message from Leah. Thank you for standing up when I didn't. Ava stared at it for a long time before replying, I'll always protect you. But I won't let people treat me like I don't belong anymore. Leah wrote back, I'm proud of you. I hope one day you'll be proud of me too. Ava felt a lump rise in her throat. The pain of betrayal was still fresh, but something else was blooming, hope. She couldn't undo the past, but maybe they could still build something real. That evening, Ava stood on her apartment balcony, watching the city lights flicker against the night. Her phone buzzed with headlines. Wells Tech faces major fraud investigation, Gregory Wells under federal scrutiny. She closed her eyes and exhaled. This wasn't revenge. This was justice. Not just for herself but for Leah, for every employee misled, every investor lied to. She had spoken truth to power and held her ground. For the first time in years she felt the weight of her sacrifices shift. She wasn't invisible. She wasn't small. He mattered. And the world finally knew it too. The fallout was swift. News of the Wells Tech scandal dominated financial headlines for days. Gregory Wells was placed under house arrest pending a formal investigation. The company's stock plummeted and employees were shaken. Diana withdrew from public appearances, hiding behind carefully worded press statements. Meanwhile, Ethan stepped into the public eye, not to defend his father but to support the company's survival. We'll rebuild transparently, he told a reporter. This company will not be defined by one man's deception. Ava watched the interview from her office, surprised by his sincerity. Maybe he wasn't like the rest of them after all. Leah visited Ava's apartment a week later. She came alone, without makeup or designer clothes, just jeans, a sweater and a weary look in her eyes. You were right, she said quietly, stepping inside. About all of it. Ava offered her a seat, unsure of what to say. I wanted so badly to believe I'd earned a seat at their table, Leah continued. But it was never about me. It was about what I could do for them. Ava nodded. And they thought I didn't matter because I couldn't offer the same connections. Leah's voice cracked. I'm so sorry, Ava. I hurt you. I betrayed everything you've ever done for me. The sisters sat in silence for a while. Then Ava reached across the table and took Leah's hand. You were manipulated. But you still had a choice. And now you have another one. Leah looked up, teary-eyed. I want to choose us. Our real family. I don't want to be like them. Ava gave a small smile. Then prove it. Not with apologies. With consistency. Leah nodded. I will. They shared a long overdue hug. It wasn't complete healing, but it was a beginning. A fragile bridge being rebuilt one plank at a time. At Wells Tech, Ava was promoted to Director of Security Operations. Her actions had not only uncovered fraud, but saved the company from total collapse. The board recognized her integrity and professionalism, though not everyone was quick to celebrate her. Some employees still whispered behind her back, jealousy perhaps or discomfort at her rise. Ava ignored it. She had earned her place. And for the first time in her career she stood in a room full of executives and spoke with total confidence, her presence commanding attention, her voice steady and unapologetic. Ethan reached out privately a month later. They met at a neutral coffee shop, far from the world of marble halls and family drama. I just wanted to say thank you, he began, for exposing the truth even though it hurt. And for protecting Leah even when she didn't see it. Ava studied him carefully. I didn't do it for you. I know, he said with a half smile. But I'd like to think I'm not the same man I was when we met. Ava sipped her coffee. Then prove that too. Don't become your father. Ethan nodded. That's the plan. Diana Wells attempted damage control with an exclusive interview, painting herself as an unknowing wife caught in her husband's web. But the public didn't buy it. Her socialite reputation faded fast. The mansion was sold to cover legal costs. Gregory's trial date was set. Meanwhile, Ava and Leah's relationship slowly regained its rhythm. They began meeting for weekly dinners, cooking together like they had before college. They laughed more. Cried less. The wounds hadn't vanished, but trust was starting to bloom again. They had finally returned to something real. Their father invited both daughters for dinner one Friday night. It was the first time in over a year they'd all shared a table. Ava arrived early, helping him set the table. I owe you an apology too, he said quietly. I let them push you out, Ava. I should have stood up. She looked at him gently. We were all trying to hold something together that was already breaking. When Leah arrived, she brought dessert, an apple pie from their mother's old recipe. They sat down together, ate in peace, and for the first time in a long time felt like a family again. After dinner, Ava and Leah stood on the porch where they used to play as children. I'm thinking of taking some time off, Leah said, gazing at the stars. Not quitting my job, just stepping back. Figuring out who I am outside of law firms and designer gowns. Ava smiled. You should get back to yourself. Leah turned to her. You know, for years I looked up to you. But I never told you that because it made me feel small. Like I'd never catch up. Ava blinked. Leah, you were never behind. We were just walking different roads. 6 months after the wedding that wasn't, Wells Tech was restructured under a new CEO. Ava remained at the helm of security, trusted and respected. Ethan continued working to rebuild the company's reputation with transparency. Leah stayed out of the public eye but resumed volunteering at a nonprofit law center. One day she stood beside Ava at a speaking event where Ava was being honored for whistleblower integrity. After the applause, Leah whispered, "You were always the strong one." Ava leaned over and whispered back, "You were always the brave one. You just forgot for a while." Ava Collins never did get her sister's perfect wedding invitation. But she got something better. Truth. Respect. Her voice. The girl who was once dismissed as just the bride's sister, had brought down an empire built on lies. Not for vengeance but for justice. Not to punish but to protect. She learned that true worth isn't handed out by rich families or written in gold foil on wedding invitations. It's earned in silence, in sacrifice, and in the courage to stand alone if you have to. Ava had once been denied a seat at the table. Now she built her own. Moral lesson. True worth isn't measured by wealth, status, or social approval, but by integrity, resilience, and the courage to speak the truth when it matters most. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stand firm in your value, even when the people closest to you try to diminish it. Respect isn't something you wait to be given. It's something you earn by never compromising who you are.